that's fine. What I do want to say is I'm using the headset because my daughter and son-in-law are in the room. Oh, there's Billy. Daughter and son-in-law are in the room, but they can't hear anything going on in the meeting. So just to let you know, they're around, but not in the same room. Hi, Billy. Good to see you. So I was just asking if there was anyone else with any of you in the room, and everybody is by themselves. Very good. So we will start. I will introduce everyone. We have Andy Adamson, myself, Roberta Chu, Greg Chun, Diana Vandekar, Julie Lealoha, and Billy Bergen, members of the Maunakea Management Board. So I will start with the minutes of the last meeting. A revision was sent earlier today with some minor grammatical changes, nothing major. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to review them or have any questions. But there were no substantial changes.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Thank you, Greg. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Diana. We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimous approval of the minutes. And we'll move on. Next thing is the executive director's report.
Do we have any public testimony?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no public testimony
Oh, okay.
tonight.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, there are a few matters I did want to cover in my ED report this evening. The first item is the CMP update. As we know, the public comment period is ongoing. We'll be reviewing what we have heard and the proposed changes later in the agenda when PSI and the team join us. So I'll reserve comment at this time. I think we'll have time for a more robust discussion of what we're hearing when we get to that matter. The second item I wanted to report on are the Sunshine Law amendments that will go fully into effect starting next month. Governor Ige's temporary waiver of some of last year's changes that were made to the Sunshine Law expire at the end of this month, end of March 31st. One of the changes we will be implementing, starting with our next regular meeting or public meeting in April, is we are required to make available one location where the public can attend our meetings and testify in person if they want, even though we are still allowed to hold the meeting, conduct the meeting virtually. Maunakea Management Board members and the public can still participate electronically, but we will be making our offices at IFA Hilo available to serve as a physical location that the public can participate from if they choose. All UH pandemic requirements for facility access remain in effect for now. Thus, people will still have to show proof of vaccination or testing and are required to wear a mask while indoors. We will be socially distancing the seating. What we've decided to do working with Carrie and Nahua is that we will have an area in the foyer of the IFA building, if you're familiar with the building, with seating where the public can view the meeting on a video screen that'll be located in the foyer. And if they want to testify, we will have them join us in an adjacent room with audio and video capabilities where they can actually provide their testimony on any item. if people require special accommodations, we ask that they notify us ahead of time, as we do now. And we just ask the public to be sure to review future posted agendas for further information. So these are changes that were temporarily stayed, if you will, because of extensions to the state's pandemic policy and facility access. So now the waiver will expire, and this is one of the more prominent changes we have to make. So if any of you so choose and want to participate in person, you may attend the meeting and participate with us here as well. Let me stop there and just make sure that if there's any questions about this particular item.
Greg, Gary, just a small thing. I think I stand to be corrected, but I think the current waiver expires actually on March 25, not 31.
Okay.
But it won't really matter in terms of your meeting schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a small question.
Yep.
Will you be providing masks?
Will we be providing masks?
Hmm.
A good question. I hadn't thought of that. Probably Nahua, Kerry, we should put that on the list of things to follow up on. I don't see why we couldn't provide paper masks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We probably have some supplies on campus, Greg.
Okay.
You can ask Calais.
Okay, thank you. That's actually a good reminder, Andy. I'm glad you asked that question. Any other questions? Okay. The next item, and it really is the last item I was going to provide a report on, which is obviously an item of interest for many people, for all of us, is House Bill 2024. So as you know, it was heard by a joint committee of House committees, subcommittees, Water and Land, Judiciary, Hawaiian Affairs, and Finance. It passed out of the joint committees with amendments and was later approved by the full House. The amendments include adding UH to the proposed management authority, clarifying that the return of the summit to its natural state would occur at such time when ground-based astronomy was deemed no longer, or deemed obsolete, no longer useful, and left open the possibility, the discussion with for the inclusion of an astronomy representative on the proposed managing authority. There are some other issues that are amendments that were made that had to do with naming and some matters that the Attorney General had asked to be cleaned up. But from our perspective, those were the more substantive changes, amendments that were made. It was passed over to the Senate, where, as we know, last week, it was assigned to two committees: Higher Education, which is chaired by Senator Kim, Donna Kim, and Ways and Means, which is chaired by Senator Donovan Dela Cruz. We are awaiting hearing when those hearings will actually be scheduled. But we have some unofficial word that Higher Ed will likely be hearing the bill next week, Tuesday. So we are currently, I'm currently spearheading the development of some updated, revised testimony. I think I did provide you folks copies of the testimony that we submitted for the joint House hearings. But just to reiterate, as well as to sort of reinforce a couple of key elements of what we are testifying to. We, the university, agrees with the cultural underpinnings of the working group's report and the bill. These are established natural principles and cycles that should inform and shape our stewardship practice. And we look forward to exploring their application to our management plans and actions. We've actually begun making some changes to the CMP to reflect some of the thinking underlying and underpinning the House Bill 2024. Second point is, as this body knows, we also agree with the need to expand and include more community voices in our planning and decision-making. We have been actively, as you know, working on this and continue to do so. But as we know, real engagement has been clouded by litigation, by perception, and politics. Nevertheless, we continue to work diligently on this because the Mauna deserves the benefit that can come with multiple voices and hands working together. Third point I want to emphasize is that while we have concerns as laid out in our response to the working group's report, with many of the specifics of the report as well as the bill, the core issue that House Bill 2024 puts on the table for all of us really goes beyond the bill itself. The core issue that is on the table for all of us is that of the vision of community we as a state aspire to. While the university clearly benefits from astronomy on Mauna Kea, the impact of the decision at hand goes far beyond our interests, our own interests. If we as a community hold a dream of being a unique cultural society where inclusivity is valued, where Native Hawaiian interests are at the table and core historical issues are being addressed, where complex social issues are addressed through constructive dialogue, where our special and unique cultural and natural resources are sustainably stewarded and used responsibly, where our children have good, solid career choices in science and technology, and where we have a viable knowledge-based sector to our economy, and Hawaii is a true international leader in knowledge generation. If those are some of the things that we believe in and aspire to, then this bill does not get us there. House Bill 2024 has in fact divided the community over Mauna Kea even more. And it has not included the broad range of voices this conversation requires, despite the good work that the working group did. The real choice House Bill 2024 is asking us to confront is about the future. It's not about the merits or demerits of the bill. And given some of the challenges with the bill, there are obviously other paths yet to explore that deserve discussion and that have not been adequately evaluated. We believe there needs to be a more collective dialogue that starts with the end in mind and which requires imagining the future, not starting with restructuring the present with no clear destination in mind. Chair, that concludes my executive director's report this evening.
Questions, comments?
I think it's well spoken.
Thank you, Dr. Berger.
Yeah, I agree. I think the points that you are going to emphasize are really important. Really important. And it'll be interesting to see, what happens.
Greg, can you expand on your point with regards to they left the door open for adding potential astronomy representative on the new committee or board or?
Yeah, I forget the exact wording. Bonnie may recall it more directly, but as you know, the original version of the bill did not have UH or astronomy representation on the management authority. So with the amendment, they added UH and they left open the discussion for adding an astronomy representative. I forget exactly how it's worded.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact wording either. If I can find it, I'll put it in the chat, but it was along the lines of they thought that merited additional conversation.
Okay, thank you, Greg, for your report.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, I just have one more question.
Sure.
Could I unmute my button? So the from what I read yesterday, they're keeping that large area intact within the bill and not just reserved to the summit area, correct? And DLNR would not be a part of this committee either.
DLNR actually has a seat at the table.
They do, okay.
Yeah.
But UH does not and astronomy does not.
Well, in the revision, UH does,
Okay, I'm sorry,
astronomy
guys.
does
Yeah,
not.
okay.
But we don't know what other changes might take place in Senate, of course.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, one more question. So there has not been any discussion on how this is all going to be funded, right?
No, I mean, to my knowledge, no. Presumably, that's why it's going to Ways and Means, because there's a financial funding question, but that is not addressed directly in the bill.
Any further questions? If not, Kahukumana report. Not sure, Greg, if you have a report from them.
Yeah, so Kahukumana met 2 weeks ago. We met with the PSI planning team and did a repeat of what we had done at our last meeting, which was to review, do a little bit deeper dive into the CMP. Particularly, their focus was on the cultural resources section. A majority of the discussion focused not so much on improvements or changes to the management actions themselves, but focused on this idea of implementing periodic respite periods for the Mauna, where observatories, as well as university in its current role, would essentially shut down operations for a day or so at different times during the year to let the Mauna rest. The idea being that in addition to supporting the resources from being overtaxed, also potentially to utilize these rest periods as honoring specific cultural events or days, if you will. So we talked a lot about different ways that some version of that, a kapu system, if you will, could be implemented. For those who have been around or around during the TMT permit. You may recall that as part of their permit, they have agreed that 4 days during the year, they would minimize operations, daytime operations, on days designated by Kahukumana. So the idea is not something foreign. It already exists in the TMT permit. So the discussions that we've been having since the meeting have been really to sort of think about, first of all, how do we talk about this issue in the CMP itself? And then secondly, sort of, if we were to actually, we would have to work with the observatories, obviously, along with the commercial tour operators and everybody else to make something like this happen. But sort of where would be the place for us to codify doing something like this? And we haven't sort of figured that part out yet. But we have inserted some language now into a couple of different places in the CMP that talks about the integration of traditional knowledge as well as Western best management practices to actually inform policies and practices like access management and our resource management, things like that. So that's how we've addressed that particular issue. And maybe PSI can point out where we've made some of those changes tonight. But that was where the bulk of the discussion focused. So we're meeting with them again on Thursday, and we'll be going back with some of this suggested changes based on the conversation that we had with them.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, Andy?
Hi, Andy.
Yeah, hi, Greg. Can you just say a bit more about the TMT agreement? What does minimal daytime operations actually mean?
We don't know. That's all it says.
Mm.
That's all it says. It says minimizing daytime operations 4 days as indicated or selected by the Kahukumana.
Mm.
So I'm going to have to go back and sort of talk to people who were around when some of that was developed. Shane Nelson is the only one who's on Kahukumana now who recalls that discussion. But sort of where it came from and what was envisioned is not clear.
But the days would probably be agreed a long way ahead. Is that
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Thanks.
Any other questions? It was a very, very good conversation. I thought it was very helpful to kind of dive deep into sort of the whys and wherefores of doing something like that.
Okay, if no other questions, then we move to the review and with the review of the comprehensive management plan draft.
Thank you. So Carrie, you can let PSI in, please. So while they're dropping in, just let me sort of remind people where we're at. So as I indicated in my ED report, we're still in the comment period. I'll let PSI provide an update on how that's going. I did share with you folks, an update yesterday in an email. There isn't a whole lot coming in. There is some, but most of the changes that I think we've been making have really come from you folks and, like I said, Kahukumana and other groups in our staff groups as well. In fact, Jim, Jesse Nahu and I talked about the independent construction monitor issue, and we want to make some changes there as well. So there'll be another change on that one. So the comment period is ongoing. And as I indicated at our last meeting, the thing that's unique with the CMP is that while we take it through all of our internal reviews and private and integrate and address the feedback that we're receiving from you folks and others, it still has to go to the regents, and even they do not have final approval. The final approval lies with the land board. So what we're trying to do is make sure in this process that everybody feels like they've been heard and that their concerns have been addressed. But we're going to continue to sort of pull all of this together. So the final document that goes to the land board may look a little different than what we've actually asked you folks to review and comment on today, take action on tonight. So that's just a little reminder of kind of where we're at. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim, and I think Jim will do a little catch up as to where we are and kind of highlight some of the changes that have been made since our meeting last time, 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry, could I just ask one question?
Oh, sure.
So in the email I received from you earlier, are we still at 7 comments only?
No, it's 8 now, right?
Okay. Are they actually related to the CMP or requesting changes to the CMP?
Jim, you want to take that one?
Sure. So yeah, I think there are 8 comments in the document. There are multiple ways to make comments. So people are using our online tool where you can make comments actually in the document. There's another tool where people can make comments by filling out a form. And then we also received a letter in the mail. So I think all told, we might be closer to 10 comments now if you include all of those sources. But to your question about are they specific and are they the type of comments that would yield potential modifications or edits to the CMP, I would put at least one of the comments in that category. I don't think it would yield a substantial change to the CMP wording, but there's sometimes people point out situations where some additional words or clarification would be beneficial. And so I'm including that type of comment in that group.
Okay, thank you very much.
So Jim, you want to catch us up?
Sure.
I know you did some of that.
So for all of the board here, and if others are watching online, I just wanted to show, let's see if I can share my screen here. This is the website, the CMS website. And at the very top of the website, you'll find this yellow bar, and it says, please see the draft of the CMP. So if you go to the CMS website, you'll be able to click on that. And this takes you to the website where comments can be made directly in the document. So we encourage you to let the public know about this website, and for people that are watching online to utilize this website. And you can find some introductory information. I mentioned a moment ago that there are multiple ways to make comments. We have the tool where you can actually comment in the document, the mail. We have a hotline number that people can call and leave a voicemail, and we record and transcribe, or not necessarily transcribe, but summarize those comments. And then we have the comment form. So all of those are available, and we encourage people to use this one here, which is where you can press this button and it will actually open the document and allow you to make comments right in the document itself. And this is the same tool that we used for the master plan. I think that was back in October, November of 2021. So people may remember this, but you just find the place you want to comment. You can scroll up and down in the document. It's a large document, so there's a table of contents, and you can find your way around using the table of contents. Once as you're reading along or you go to a place where you want to make a comment, you just set your cursor there and click the button, and then you can add your comment. So this tool is available now, and it will remain available through the month of March. So the comment period closes in the end of March, and at that time we'll collect all the comments. This is the document itself in a PDF version. It's exactly the same thing as what's available to comment online. I just wanted to pull up the PDF version because it's a little easier to see in this view, and point out, again, the table of contents. There are chapters for each of the 12 major subjects, starting with cultural landscape, natural resources, and down the line, education and outreach, astronomy resources, etc. And so these are the same topics that were in the 2009 CMP, and we have the management actions under each one of them for people to review and consider in detail. We talk about very specifically in the introduction of the document, I just want to point this out to people again, that this is what we call a supplement of the 2009 CMP. And we say very specifically right here, it's in the first paragraph of the document, that section 1.2 of this document replaces section 3.1.1 of the 2009 CMP, and all other parts of this document, the document being the supplement, replace chapter 7 of the 2009 CMP. So just bearing that in mind, this supplement replaces specific parts of the 2009 CMP. The parts of the 2009 CMP that it does not replace are still valid and considered part of the CMP. Let's see. This one section, section 1.2, is about updating the location and the description of the UH management area. It's a relatively minor update, but we wanted to be clear with everybody that the UH management area is the same as what is defined in the regulations as the UH, or as the Maunakea lands, and that regulation or statute defines it as described here. So the only real change is that the buffer, oops, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. I wanted to zoom out a little bit. The only real change is that the buffer area along the roadway is no longer part of the UH management areas. Still in the UH management areas are Halipahaku, the road, and that's the road that's in the easement between Halipahaku and then the Maunakea Science Reserve. And like I said, there are chapters in each chapter for a subject. And just to consider this further, let's see. So there are the 12 subjects, and in each one of the chapters, so there's a chapter for each subject. In each one of those chapters, there's an introduction. We have the desired outcome, which is consistent with the desired outcome approved in 2009. We have a need statement, and then we have the management actions. So Greg was speaking earlier about discussions with Kahuku-Mauna and potential changes to the management actions to address their input. I'm just going to drag this over here. This is wording that we're proposing to add to Management Action CR4 to address their input, because they had some very valuable input and suggested that the universities be more specific about how Hawaiian knowledge can and will inform management actions going forward. So working with the advisory groups, UH will integrate accumulated Hawaiian knowledge with contemporary scientific findings and use both to inform its approach to implementing the CMP. And this is not just about the cultural resource management actions, it's about all the management actions. For example, programs for the education management actions or the access management actions, we think can incorporate Hawaiian knowledge and methods, as well as sort of the more established current methods that people are using to implement these management actions today. So that's just an example of the way we're responding to the input that we receive. And we continue to be checking daily for input from the public. And we continue to invite people to provide their mana'o. And then at the close of the comment period, the end of the month, we will collect the comments received and summarize them. And similar to how we address the comments on the management plan, we will provide a summary of the type of comments that we received and the university's responses and approaches to editing and modifying the CMP to create the next version of this document. And as Greg laid out, the next version of this document will then go to the Board of Regents for their consideration. And after that, on to the Board of Land and Natural Resources for their consideration. So there's still a couple steps to go. So with that, I'll just take a break and see if there are any questions.
I just wanted to comment and thank you, Jim, and your team for incorporating what Maunakea Management Board members discussed at the special meeting, because I think different input, including what Andy had commented on, exactly what is this revised CMP going to do. I like how you incorporated in the beginning of the document. So just from my standpoint, it appears to me that, what input Maunakea Management Board members have given has been, thought through and addressed in the ongoing changes of the document itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Any other questions or comments or input?
Just thank you for all your hard work.
Well, this is what we're responsible for, so we want to make sure that we come out at the end of this process with something that is good for the Mauna and it's implementable.
You
I
know,
do have- Go ahead, Diane.
I just wanted to add that after our last meeting, I did go through everything again, carefully as I could. And I was very impressed with the details. And I just wanted to mention that it's a great deal of work, Greg. And I was wondering how you had plans to get it all done. Unless you're going to work
Well,
Constantly.
we're gonna reduce the 103 management actions to by 13 or 15, whatever it is, because those are completed. So that'll help.
Okay,
But obviously, implementing this plan alone requires a huge investment of resources, and mostly it's people.
I think that was my question, is how, an odd way of phrasing it, but how do you manage to, where are you going to get those resources? Because it seemed like a huge job.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the resources that we get to do the work is from a combination of tuition and general funds and special fees, and TMT rent helps a lot, and other sources from within the university, commercial tour operations and whatnot. But as Andy knows, one of the conversations that we've been having with the MKOs on new subleases is really looking at how new sublease agreements can help with subsidizing and supporting this stewardship work. We would like to be able to say that the money collected, the funds collected by the university, whether that be through leases or other fees, is all being channeled back into doing this work. It's staying on the Mauna. And so we've been working real hard in sort of how do we structure the subleases to actually accomplish that. I think all of the observatories, recognize that going forward, they will be paying substantially more than what they have been paying. We're trying to make it reasonable, but we also think that it's important that part of the funding is to be able to say it really is going back towards stewardship for the implementation of the CMP and all the other stuff that has to occur. So right now, thanks to Bonnie and the university, and they carry us a lot, but we're going to be asking to share the load a bit more going forward.
All right, thank you.
The question I had was procedurally, so comments will be collected through the end of March, and then revisions will be made. Will the Maunakea Management Board be looking at another version or a quote unquote final version for us to comment on, or is this the last point in time that we get to give our comment?
I think you folks will certainly be sharing revised drafts with you folks. And when it goes to the regions, obviously, there's always the possibility that changes could be made at that point as well. We're hoping that the changes that do result from this whole process are going to be not substantially different from what you folks are looking at and commenting on now. But obviously, if there was something very substantial, then we'd have to do a deeper dive into sort of reviewing it with you folks. What we're asking for, at least at this point, is a motion to say that says that the Maunakea Management Board believes that their input has been considered and addressed, and you have no further comments at this time. But we'll bring back versions to you folks, but the process is going to be pretty tight. The timeline is pretty tight, obviously. Right now, as Jim indicated, there haven't been, except for some of this stuff with Kahukumana, there haven't been real substantial changes. Oh, and then of course, Andy's feedback about what is this thing. That was an important piece of feedback. Other questions?
Just a quick statistical question, Greg. We're 2 weeks from the end of the month. I don't know.
Mhm.
That right. So if we had 7 comments at this time ahead of the master plan, how much of a flood would you be looking at in the last day or two? Because there was quite an uptick, wasn't there, if I remember rightly?
There was an uptick towards the end, yeah. I think there are some different circumstances that we're dealing with right now. I think with House Bill 2024, there's been some reluctance to participate in this process until people see what the end result of that is going to be. We have gotten feedback from some of the folks who commented on the master plan that they're fatigued, sort of consultation fatigue. And they're also, for some people, they're confused. They don't, as much as we've tried to explain it, master plan, management plan, you know, all these things, they're confused. So I think that's probably contributing as well. I will say, so I don't know, there could be an uptick in feedback towards the end of the month. But if there is, I'm not exactly sure of the substantive nature of those comments that we'd be getting.
So you raise a really good point with regards to the fatigue factor, or people are just waiting out to see what's going to happen with the bill. In the event, and this is totally hypothetical, in the event that we get no clear directives with regards to where the bill is going, or if the bill continues to be heard beyond the end of the month, is there a possibility of extending that comment period to address that lag time, if there is any at all?
We haven't thought about that. I will say that the thing that would probably present a challenge in this overall schedule that we're working towards is that if the bill does pass, I think the discussions that we've been having with MKOs about new subleases would probably need to be put on the side until this new entity was stood up. And we've discussed that with the MKOs, MKO directors directly. In which case, it could make sense, would make sense to sort of extend the comment period if we needed to. But having said all of that, we do feel like there's a responsibility that we have to update this plan irregardless of things. If it gives us a little bit more time, fine, but I think we're going to want to push forward with updating the plan anyway.
I would agree, because the intent of this plan was always to update.
Right. Right. It's supposed to be a living document.
Mm-hmm.
I guess depending on the outcome of the bill, right? If it does pass, it's going to be a whole different ballgame anyway.
Yeah. And I would feel a responsibility to quite frankly, turning over the best document that we can.
think I really think this group has made and Greg under, you and your team and Jim and his team, I think the effort put in has been genuine, has been, honest, straightforward, very to the point, and very diplomatic. So, I feel good that what the outcome of the document, both the master plan and this comprehensive management plan, provides is really good for the future of the management of Mauna Kea.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other comments? Billy, I thought at one point it looked like you were going to say something, but I didn't know if you were.
No, I just have a number of things going through my head depending on what's going to happen with the bill. But I definitely believe that we need to continue with moving the plan forward in order to meet our responsibility with updating the plan.
Yeah, agreed.
Billy, were you going to say something?
I think that it's an updated document that's presented in good faith.
Any last comments, Diana or Andy?
No, just thanks very much for all the work. Truly appreciate it.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
I would like to ask Greg, did you want to make that motion to?
Sure. I can make it.
Do you want to go ahead and state it, the motion?
So I move that the Maunakea Management Board acknowledge that the input received on the comprehensive management plan update, their input received on the comprehensive management plan update have been heard and addressed through the updates and consultation that we have done, and that the Maunakea Management Board has no further concerns or comments at this time, and the document can move forward in the process.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julie. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
I
Unanimously approved. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, folks. Really appreciate it.
Let's see. I think the only other item next, and I don't know if we need to discuss or if anything further has been discussed about the Maunakea Management Board membership. Was there any update, Greg?
Yeah, actually, I would like to take this opportunity to request we move into the executive session to discuss Maunakea Management Board update membership. Please.
Is there a second to the motion for a special meeting?
I'll second. Andy, go ahead.
Okay. Andy, second. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. We will move into executive session. And as a reminder, Carrie sent the link, I think it was a day ago. So it's further in the string of emails to use that link for the special, for the executive session. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Jim, Peter, and Julia. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you, everybody, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank
Yeah,
you
we
very
really
much.
enjoyed it, and look forward to continuing to work with you through the remainder of the process associated with the CMP.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
So we should check out of this meeting and then use
We'll
the
go
other
into
link, right?
special session, I mean,
Yeah.
the executive session, which is
Yeah.
the other link, and then we'll come back.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
We're just waiting for Diana. Okay, great. We are all back. The regular public meeting. I think the next item on the agenda is announcements. So Greg, we moved the general meeting from March, was it March 3rd? Sorry, to, March 15th. And so our next scheduled meeting time is April
5th. Oh, you're on mute. Roberta, you're on mute.
April 5th and April 19th. So I wasn't sure which day would be the public meeting.
So we're suggesting that we go back to our regular schedule so that the first Tuesday of the month be the public meeting. So that would be April 5th. And I understand that you would be able to make that one. Is that what I?
Yes, I can make that meeting. I will not be able to make the special meeting on the 19th.
Okay.
So I would need to ask Julie if you could chair the special meeting on April 19th.
Yep, can do.
Okay.
April 5th is a Tuesday night. And I think I'm going to be in flight to Oklahoma.
Oh,
I don't think I'll be able to even join you remotely.
Okay.
Till the next day.
Okay.
So I think I'll probably be missing that meeting.
Okay.
Okay, but I think we will still have 5 of us.
Yeah.
So we'll be okay, Billy. Yeah, I'm hoping everybody can make the 19th meeting because I will not be able to make it.
19th for sure for me.
Okay. I have no other announcements. Any more announcements, Greg?
Not for me.
Okay. If not, it is now 6:55. I will adjourn the meeting and thank you everyone for your time, and we'll see you on Tuesday, April 5th. Aloha.
Aloha. And congratulations once again, Roberta.
Oh, thank you.